So in the Feast plugin version 12, we have customizer settings for the FSRI and FSCI blocks, and you access those by going through the customize screen. So without it enabled, there's nothing here. If we go ahead and enable this and refresh the page, it will get added back. So it's under the Feast section. It's the FSRI blocks, which are the post listings, and the FSCI, which are the category listings. So we'll look at the post listings first, the FSRI. So the first one here, we have the list item padding, which is the inside padding around both the image and the title. So if we change this to something large, for example, you can see that it adds padding and shrinks it down. If we set it down to 0, it'll set it back to the minimum. So on this, the full width block, it will still have the minimum on there. The title font, by default, it's set to the body, but in some cases, we can have it set to the heading font. So this will match the heading font, or we can manually set it to the actual body font itself. We'll leave that as default. The color that you see here is the hyperlink color. That's the default. So we can go ahead and set that to a black because it's a link directly to the post. It doesn't need to stand out as a hyperlink. So we'll set that. The FSRI title padding is the padding just around the title and not the actual block itself. So again, if we add something excessively large, you can see that it adds a lot of padding around the title. If you leave it blank, it'll set it to the normal. The title font size is this right here. By default, it is the body font size. So most people have this set to 18, 19, or 20 pixels. But if you want to stand out a little bit more, you can increase that to, example, 24 pixel size. The minimum you're going to want to go for this is 16 pixels because of mobile compliance. But for, if you're, aside from making sure that's at least 16 pixels, you want to just make sure it's not too large. Now, looking at it on the desktop view, especially the full width, isn't the best thing to do because this gets used in the sidebar. So the sidebar is 360 pixels. You don't want to set it to something too large for the sidebar because it's going to look ugly. And this isn't just the sidebar, this is also the mobile layout. The majority of mobile layouts are just too wide, even on the full width desktop. So you do want to make sure that it looks good for mobile. Again, you don't want to go too large on this. 20 pixels, I would say, is maybe the max that you want to go. And again, minimum 16 pixels. But if you just leave it blank, it will be the same size as the text itself. Font weight, same thing, it's going to make it a little bit bolder. So this looks like it's bold by default, which would be 700. So it doesn't look like it's changed at all. 800, which should be a little bit thicker. And because this site, I believe, is set up with the system fonts, it should have all the system font styles. But on some sites, you won't be able to get certain fonts to load, right? So you can see that now it's not normal. I think normal is 400 is the setting here. But you can make it bolder or less bold depending on how you want it to stand out. The title font case, the default is how you write it in the block editor, but you can also set it to be uppercase if that's the style that you want, or lowercase if that's the style they want. So the lowercase is used on our Cooked Pro theme, but the default is going to be no change whatsoever. So it's going to have the same capitalization as your posts. The grid gap horizontal, again, I would look at the sidebar for this because this will give you the best view on mobile as well. So this will be the gap between the items here. So if we change this to something large, it's going to shrink down everything else to make sure there's at least 50 pixels in between here. I don't believe 0 will actually set it to 0. We still have a little bit of minimum spacing here. The vertical grid gap is the gap in between, so up and down. Again, we can set this to something large, see what it does to this. So this isn't actually bad spacing, but on mobile, again, you're going to want to pay careful attention. So these are all the different options available for the FSRI block.